Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Peter Jennings, and I go by CSURAM88 across the daily fantasy industry. And pumped to be back again here at FantasyLabs doing a lineup review. Going to be reviewing a couple different tournaments, a contest from Thanksgiving, in addition to some big tournaments on the main slate for Week 12. The week was strange for me. I had a killer Thanksgiving, as you'll see here, and had one of my worst weeks, actually my worst week on the main slate. So some things to review and look at, and certainly excited to dive into it. So let's take a look here at Thanksgiving. This is a Thunderdome, and I think the ownerships are interesting here. There's just a 20-man field for Thanksgiving, $5,300 buy-in. I was fortunate to take first for $40,000, and I went with a team that was pretty chalky. There were a couple things that made it a little bit unique that I wanted to do, and it was similar to a lot of the cash game stuff that I played, but I went with a cousin stack, and I wanted to go away from some guys that I thought were going to be really popular and basically load up on the passing game and hope that the Redskins game shoot out, which it did relative to the rest of the game. So I went with Cousins, 65% owned. He was kind of the chalk on DraftKings. I played a lot of Dak on FanDuel, but pretty much exclusively played Kirk Cousins and Dak on the Thanksgiving slate. Le'Veon Bell, who was 85% owned, he was a lock. In my cash game team, I did fit Le'Veon, Zeke, and Antonio Brown, and basically punted everywhere else. I thought that was the strategy. But here I had to fade Antonio Brown to fit in Jordan Reed, who I really wanted to play in tournaments. So Le'Veon Bell, Ezekiel Elliott, that was chalk, 85 and 65%. Went with Cole Beasley, and I thought this was going to be an interesting leverage play. I thought Des Bryant would see a ton of Josh Norman, so I thought Cole Beasley, who was expensive, $5,500 in this spot, could be a nice contrarian play. Went with Deshaun Jackson over Pierre Garçon, who I had in cash. Garçon was much cheaper. He was the cheap option that a lot of people went, and I was just hoping to get a lot of upside out of Deshaun Jackson. Adam Thielen, who I had in cash as well, who's just a savings punt play that made us a lot of sense. And then I stacked both tight ends here, Witten and Reed. That really worked out with Jordan Reed. Obviously had a big game and toughed out a really tough shoulder injury. So happy that Jordan Reed came through there, and Steelers D at 50%. So a lot of people on the same plays with only 3 games, but this was the team. Obviously a lot of great players in here, just barely held off beating Sahil, who had a really solid team as well. He went Ladarius Green, which was his contrarian play, which I actually think made a decent bit of sense. So that was the Thanksgiving slate. Hope that worked out for you guys in a good way. Again, it was one of those slates where you had to hit kind of everything right to do well, but I think it was a relatively predictable slate, and I think the content went pretty well around that. So moving over to the Millionaire Maker, did not have a good week in tournaments. Did have one good team, a Simeon team at 0.3% owned here that you can look at. That did well. I had David Johnson, LaShawn McCoy, which is obviously great. Then I had Tyler Boyd, Allen Robinson, Mohamed Sanu, Kelsey, Emmanuel Sanders, and Titans D. Like all these plays, I was leveraging a lot of these guys. Boyd was obviously the most chalky option here, but Allen Robinson in the Jags passing game just didn't quite come through. But pretty pleased with this team and my thought process around here. Not any negative correlation, and I had Kelsey on the way back. But you can see here a lot of really bad teams that I had. I had a ton of Brandon Cooks and some other guys. Let's look at my worst team here. Carson Palmer, Rashad Jennings, Thomas Rawls, Brandon Cooks at 10% with a 0. Fitzgerald, Julio, went for the game stack here with Austin Hooper. Matt Forte, who I thought could be a nice contrarian play, and the Saints D. So not my greatest performance in the Millionaire Maker, but really happy with how I'm constructing my lineups. You'll see we have some new upgrades coming out to the lineup builder that will be released soon, and I enjoy getting 150 lineups into a lot of these contests. And then finally, here we have the queue that Bales took down. This is what made the day great, watching Bales run away with this queue. Had a great team here as well. And the guy that put him over the top is Emmanuel Sanders. And if you listen to the DFS Edge that I do for DraftKings, you'll know that my bold prediction was Emmanuel Sanders will score 2 touchdowns and come home with my wife. Fortunately, did not end up with my wife, Emmanuel Sanders, so I dodged that bullet, but a great game for Sanders, and really happy that Bales qualified for the New York Championship. So hope this was helpful for you guys. Definitely an interesting week. Excited for Week 13. Definitely going to be a lot of high-scoring games. A little bit more excited about the slate just in general. I thought Week 12 was a little challenging, and some of the chalky plays just didn't hit. So yeah, with that, as always, looking forward to seeing more Fantasy Labs subscribers at the top of the leaderboard, and good luck on all your contests going forward.